Welcome to our presentation, Resilient Leadership, Building Your Capacity to Thrive Under Pressure. I'm Cap Wilkes, Director of Program Development at RHI, a subsidiary of the National Rural Health Resource Center. We are pleased to have this presentation. Developed as technical assistance through funds from the Federal Office of Rural Health Policy in support of the important work of the Rural Allied Health Training Network projects. I'm excited to have Arlene Anderson with us today presenting. Arlene, I hand it over to you.
Hello, welcome. My name is Arlene Anderson, and I'll be your guide to lead you on this discussion through resilient leadership, building your capacity to thrive under pressure. And having worked in healthcare for the past 30 years, I know something about the capacity to thrive under pressure. I'm happy to have this discussion with you. My background is a Master of Science in Psychology, and I've worked with a number of senior leadership positions in various healthcare settings, like hospitals, nursing homes, and home care, and government agencies as well. So let's get started. Thank you to the Rural Health Innovations for sponsoring this presentation. We'll take a look at this picture. Does this look like how you spend your days? I know that one Halloween I came to work dressed as a firefighter because that's what it felt like my work was. That there were always things that were happening and disasters and various traumas, and it was my job to try to take care of those. Well, sometimes we're put in that situation, but what we really want to do and get to the position of is using our time strategically. And I congratulate you for being in this presentation because that's what this is about, getting out of the firefighting. We can do it if we need to, and we can still survive, but we really want to make sure that we are taking a good long look at how we're doing things and how we can thrive even in those kinds of situations. So let's take a look at our learning objectives for the next few minutes. We're going to define resilience and discuss its function and benefits. That will be the first section. Our second section is to describe common strategies for growing your personal resilience. Doesn't make any difference if we know what it is and what it's supposed to do if we don't know how to get it. So we're going to make sure that we spend a good amount of time on strategies for making sure that we have the best resilience that we have. And the third section is going to be looking at two personal resilience strategies, and we're going to be able to practice those. Really getting down to the nitty-gritty, what am I going to do tomorrow that will help things be different? As we go along, what I want you to do is also think about what are the implications this has on your role as a project or network leader. Because you're taking care of yourself, yes, but you're also a role model for others. So how does this impact not just you, but yourself as a project or network leader? What implications does it have? So be thinking about that as we go along. So let's look at the definition of resilience. And I've used a couple of different definitions here just to help us think through what is the main core of the idea. The first definition is from researchers Walker and Salt, and they define it as the capacity to absorb disturbance and maintain basic function and structure. So even though something is not the way that it was and there's a big change or some kind of disruption, a person or system or thing is still able to maintain its basic function and structure. And you can even think about bridges. When engineers are designing a bridge, they look at what are the kinds of disturbances that can happen. Is this a place that has earthquakes? Does it have tornadoes or hurricanes? So they try to build in the resilience of that bridge. A second definition, and there are some similarities here, the capacity to function with a core purpose, meaning, and forward momentum in the face of trauma. So not just pushed around by every breeze that comes, but has a core purpose, still is able to move forward even though there's some kind of trauma or stress or disturbance coming at it. And that's a definition from researchers Zolli and Healy. The shortcut way of thinking about resilience is the ability to bounce back. It's certainly more than that, but that's a way that really sticks in our head. So I like to use that definition. That when we all know people that sometimes things will come at them and they just fall in a ball and curl up and they no longer function. They blame other people or they just can't seem to get themselves going again. And others, the same kind of thing can happen and they're able to bounce back. They find a way to keep going. And I want you to consider this because I'll be asking you in a few minutes, why is it that some people are able to bounce back, others are not? Some people bounce back and others don't. Why is that? We'll come back to that question, so be thinking about that as we go along. Well, there are three outlooks on life, and this certainly has something to do with why some people bounce back and others don't. And what I'd like to do is describe each of these outlooks on life, and then you can be thinking about people that you know or thinking about yourself and thinking, which one of these do I fit in? So for this first one on the left, I'm going to just give you some typical comments of someone who has this outlook on life, and I'll describe it. Let's see. Someone might say, I would have had that job, but the government funding got cut. Or, I would have had that promotion, but the boss doesn't like me. Or perhaps, I would have had that boyfriend, but my sister got in the way. Do you see anything that's in common there? Yes, this is a very dependent way of looking at life, that life happens to me. And certainly there are times, maybe on a Tuesday night when nothing's going your way, this is how you feel, this is how you look at life. It's okay if you have your life this way on a Tuesday evening. But by Wednesday morning or the next day, you need to be getting out of that. But some people spend their whole life in this particular outlook. So that's one. Now let me describe the second one. That person, you may have heard some sayings such as, if it's to be, it's up to me. Or, if I can believe it, I can achieve it. Isn't that great? Well, those people are a little bit farther along than the ones on the left, and they think that they control things. Now, I do have to ask the question, how many times do you hit your head on a brick wall before you realize it hurts? Well, if it was true that you controlled everything, this would be a great way to look at life. But it's also a way to exhaust yourself and potentially get sick. And, you're getting it a little bit further along, but you're still going to get hurt with this kind of outlook on life. So there must be another option. Certainly there are things that happen to us, and they're not necessarily things we choose. It can be illness, and it can be accidents, it can be relationship changes, it can be regulation changes. Many of these kinds of things happen to us. They're not in our direct control. However, there are aspects of control in how we respond to them. So this kind of person looks at reality to say, yes, there are some things that happen. There are some things that I can do about it. Those are the things that I'm going to spend my time on and focus on. So the one on the left is called the dependent outlook on life. The one in the middle, independent. Doesn't matter what's going on in the world. I think what I think. Well, you can think you're a telephone and you're still never going to be one. So it's good to take action and be proactive. The third choice, being interdependent, is where the resilient people hang out, because things happen to us. We know that. And sometimes it has to do with what is our reaction and what is our response to those things. Well, let's take a look at the domains of resilience. There's a lot of different types of resilience. I'm going to mention 4 of them here, and each of them deserves days of discussion and research, but let's just take a quick look so we're familiar with all of them. The first one being physical. We have physical resilience. We don't come into the world necessarily equal in this area. Some people have better genes than others or better environments, but our physical state has something to do with our resilience to get our best possible health. That's our nutrition and our sleep and our environment as well. We have to make some choices. And the second one is spiritual, a higher meaning. What is the bigger picture that we believe in and how we consider our place in the universe? What is that meaning that we bring to our lives and the work that we do? Emotional resilience, and that is facing challenges with balance and control. We can all think of times and examples, either with ourselves or with other people, where something happens and someone overreacts or even underreacts. An emotionally resilient person is able to respond appropriately in the moment with balance and control. And the fourth one being cognitive resilience. Focus amid stress. And there's certainly a lot of stress in healthcare today with your networks and projects. Things are changing and a lot of uncertainty. So even through all of that, how do we have cognitive resilience? And that's what we'll be talking about. Mostly these 2 in the middle, emotional and cognitive resilience in this particular presentation. So what are the functions of resilience? Being able to respond quickly and effectively in the right places in the right way. We just mentioned not overacting, not underreacting, but choosing how to respond, to do it in an effective way. Secondly, also having reserves and access to the needed resources, increasing the safe space for operating. So it's not somebody who's walking on a thin line and, I can't go left or right. It's just my little way of operating. It's got a wider aspect. You don't have to wait until you get to the end of your rope. You take proactive steps to take initiative so that you have a lot of operating space. And part of that is this third point as well, keeping your options open, not feeling backed in a corner. You know that there's always a way. And when things happen, a lot of times I will use the response, well, there are 1,000 ways to do that. So which one of them are we going to pick? Usually a lot more ways to deal with things that first come to mind. We need to think through what are our options. And a resilient person, resilience helps us recognize that we do have options. And the benefits are related, of course, so that highly resilient people are flexible. This is how you recognize them. They're not rigid in their thinking or their methods. They're able to deal with a lot of different ways. They expect to bounce back. And our expectations do have something to do with how we deal with life and how much we are able to bounce back. And the third point is that resilient people are adept at seeing things from another person's point of view. They're able to see it and they're willing to see it from how it may look to another, to take on someone else's perspective. So that's all good. And I told you that we would be coming back to this question. We looked at what resilience is, what are some of the benefits and the functions, the domains of resilience, just as an introduction. And you're not a blank slate. You came with some experience today. So I would like to ask you that question. Why is it that some people bounce back and others don't? If you are watching this in a group, your facilitator will guide you through the next few minutes as you pause and consider this. If you're watching alone, I will just invite you to hit the pause button and consider your answer to that question. I like this saying that a hard fall leads to a high bounce if you are made of the right material. So a lot of times It doesn't matter really what's happening to you. What material are you made out of? That's how you get that high mass. So we've looked at what resilience is and the functions and benefits. So what? That's an important question. What am I going to do about it? And we're going to spend the next 10 minutes or so just looking at specific strategies that you can use in your leadership to be able to maintain or build your resilience. And there are 10 of them. So let's take the first one, maintaining reserves. Stress, it's the imbalance of stress versus capacity. You have the choice to reduce the demands or increase the capacity. A lot of times we can't reduce the demands, so we have to increase our capacity. So don't wait till the end of your rope. One thing that you can do is know your warning cues. What are the warning cues within your team or within your own self that you know, okay, I need to take a step back? These might be financial reserves. They might be personal reserves, relationship reserves. And what you always want to do is think of plans B, C, and D because things are going to happen. So, all right, we can't go the first way we were going to go. What's plan B? What's plan C? And I like to use the metaphor of a mountain climber. And I used to have a picture of one up in my office because a mountain climber doesn't try to move all four extremities at once. Doesn't take both hands and both feet off the mountain and then try to get someplace new. No, a mountain climber will take one extremity at a time and pace himself or herself. Keep a grip while you're moving one hand, and then you move a leg and you move the other hand. So maintaining reserves has to do with pacing yourself as well. So make sure that you're doing that. A second strategy is to map your vulnerabilities and plan for them. And what I mean here is that think about what could go wrong. And not only that, but what could go right? Where are you vulnerable? And what are you going to do about any threats or circumstances that are harmful? Or what if you over succeed and suddenly have extra funding? It could happen. So what this is all about is just thinking through ahead of time. What are the types of things that we need to plan for? And then anticipate what your plans might be for that. If this, then that. And try to do that for as many of the threats and disruptions or over successes that can be anticipated because there are a lot more that you don't even know about. So at least plan for the kinds of things you know about. That goes along with maintain reserves too. Financial, social, your relationships. What are the vulnerabilities? What types of things can happen? And make sure that you know what your plan might be in those cases. Develop social capital, which is a fancy way of saying to strengthen interpersonal bonds, because people support people. And it's just a human nature that we give more leeway to others that we know and that we like. So as a leader, you want to create ways for people to understand and deepen their bonds. Find ways to cultivate communities. And there's a lot of research about how to do this, but what you want to have is strong ties and weak ties. Let me explain what those are. The strong ties are those are the relationships that take time and resources to maintain. They're so important that you are going to make sure those core group of people in your life are given what they're due. The weak ties, well, those might be acquaintances and maybe professional people that you know, but they're important for keeping the information flowing. It's how you learn things and you get feedback. Try to keep that balance of strong ties and weak ties. You need some people in your network that are very close to you, that are meaningful, that you will invest in, and others, they're there. They're not the most important, but they are important for keeping the information flowing, for you to be doing some of the other things to maintain your resilience. Fourth strategy, experiment. You may have heard that saying that it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. You have to be careful where you apply that. But this is about finding out how much is too much, how far is too far, how little is too little. So when you have the chance, do small experiments, test the options. And I like to use the analogy that you can't stay healthy if you have no exposure to germs. So get messy. Find out about your limits. If you don't experiment, that's what's risky. It's like a forest that's overdue for a burn. We get choked out by old habits and assumptions. So get out of the comfort zone every now and then. Try to see what could happen. You can do small mini projects or time limited things just to see what are the options and possibilities here. Strategy number 5, simmer. Let things play out. This one tends to be an important one for people in healthcare because we want to solve things. And you know what? You don't have to solve everything today. One time, a senior leader that I was working with said to me, Arlene, you have to let the bad happen sometimes. And it was really hard for me because I really wanted to fix things. And you know what? People can surprise you. And here's sometimes what you have to come up with. Do I have enough answers for today? If you have enough answers for today, sometimes that's what you do. You let it simmer, let things play out as they're going to do, and then you deal with what happens at the end. Another question you can ask yourself, am I okay now? Or maybe your project or network. Are we okay right now? Okay, well then it might be time to simmer. Just let things go. Don't take on what isn't yours to take on. Strategy number 6, start or maintain a mind-body practice. And this might be some kind of meditation or gratefulness. Meditation is just a way of disrupting your usual grooves of functioning. It focuses your attention. So use what resonates with your own belief system here, whether it's prayer or journaling or some way to slow yourself down and focus your attention. And certainly the body practice also, be sure that you exercise, find some kind of thing that you actually like, some kind of play. For me, I tried running, I tried biking, I tried swimming. None of those worked until I tried dancing. For me, it's exercise and it's play, so I look forward to it. Also, sleep belongs here. Many of us forget that we need to create an environment of comfort. I always joke when I'm traveling with someone to tell them I'm a really nice person as long as I get my sleep. So know what you need and make sure that you've got a plan for getting that. 7th strategy, setting up feedback systems from you and to you. We talked earlier about getting early warning systems, whether it's production counts or, just your own self that you can tell when you need to pay attention. Set up alerts that make sense. And this might be internally or maybe even with your staff or people in your project or network where you check in with them on a regular basis. Make it systematic that you will check in with them. And some people will not give you negative feedback or anything that they don't think you want to hear, and you might need to make an extra effort to open that door. I used to come out to my staff and ask them a couple of times a year, are we doing anything that's stupid? And unfortunately, they always had an answer. And whether it was, we're doing this form or we're doing this report and we're doing it this way, and it makes no sense to us. And sometimes I had to say, well, you're correct. I'm not sure why we still do. And so let's change it. Let's find out. And sometimes I actually had a reason why we were doing it that way, and I could help it make sense to them. And it made a lot of difference in their workday. So open doors. Know who you can ask for feedback. And that might also go back to that core group of people that you count on. Who are those strong ties that will give you that feedback? When you're doing something well, when it's working, you need those people to tell you. If it needs to change, if something is not working and really needs to be recognized, make sure that you have a way of finding out what that is. We tend to want to avoid messages we don't agree with, and we favor those informational sources that confirm our biases. So make sure that you're checking out other perspectives as well. And that has to do with this next one. Protect diversity, and diversity of thought in particular. So within your network or project group and within your thinking. And we can all identify those particular outliers that no matter what it is, they're the ones who say it can't be done, or they're the ones who say it can be done. Whatever everyone else is thinking, they're thinking the contrary thing. Those can be really valuable people and valuable perspectives. So make sure that you don't cut them out of your life or out of your network or project. That is a really valuable source for you to maintain resilience, particularly as we thought about mapping your vulnerabilities and your thresholds. Those people can be one source of information for doing that. There's a saying that says, when two people always agree, one is useless. Where two people always disagree, both are useless. So somewhere in between those two extremes is where you want to be. Protect diversity and how people are thinking and what they're bringing to the table. Number 9, keep the bigger picture in mind. And this can have something to do with your mission and your vision. Can you describe your company's mission and vision, or your project or your network? A lot of people can't, so ask yourself that question. And can the people that are in your network or project, can they describe what the mission and vision is? You can endure a lot of pain and a lot of agony if you realize this is going to lead to something that I really, really want. That's where your mission and vision come in. Can you describe your own personal vision? And is there overlap between the project and network and your own personal vision? What is it that you really want? And again, those characteristics, you want something simple that you can remember, something emotional that's a stretch and something exciting for you, and positive, something that you actually want. So going back to that big picture, and I used to have a picture of a mountain in my office as well, and it said at the bottom something like, God sometimes moves mountains one pebble at a time. And I would come home and say, well, I moved a speck of dust today. But it was all in the bigger picture of healthcare and making patients better. Am I going the right direction? Keeping the bigger picture in mind helps you feel like what you're doing is going toward a goal that you really want. And the last strategy, actually it's on your handout, it says other, because you didn't come as a blank slate. So what are some other things that you know of that you could add to this list of strategies? And what I'd like for you to do is to take just a few minutes and think about what are the key ideas for you right now. As you go through, I want you to pick maybe 3 or 4 and circle those and make a few notes. What are the key ideas? Like right now, these are the ones that really apply to my situation. If you are doing this in a group, your facilitator will guide you through the next few minutes. And if you are going through this presentation alone, I just invite you to pause and identify those key ideas that are important to you right now. Okay, welcome back. We have looked at resilience, what it is, what the functions are, and the benefits. We've talked about some very specific strategies for building our resilience. And what I'd like to do is to just spend this last few minutes talking about easy ways to start and giving you a chance to practice those as well. So here's something for the beginning of the day. Before you get out of bed in the morning, as you're just lying there, you're awake, but you're not really moving yet, it's your chance to list 5 things you are grateful for. There's a lot of research and information about the value of gratefulness and how it builds your resilience. And you may even want to change that to list 5 people you are grateful for, or some combination between. In a few minutes, I'll give you a chance to practice that. I know you're out of bed, but you can still practice it. And if you have a chance to do that, it changes your perspective and helps you remember all of the things that are going right and to be thankful for all of those things. One more practice I'll explain and then invite you to practice these. At the end of the day, you have a chance before you go to sleep, you lie down, or you maybe even want to journal this. Ask yourself, what went well today? And what was my role in getting that to happen? If you go back to those 3 outlooks on life, it helps you identify where is it that I've been proactive, that I've taken initiative, and it made a positive difference. So those are 2 daily practices that can impact your ability to be a role model as a leader in your network or in your project. And I want to, if you are listening to this in a group, your facilitator will pause the presentation and work through practice of these easy ways to start. If you are listening to this on your own, I would just ask you to pause the presentation and make yourself a note so that you remember to do these 2 practices to start them on your next opportunity. One last question before we leave each other, and that has to do with one that I mentioned early in the presentation. What implications does this have for you in your leadership role? Certainly you as a human being, this has been valuable information, a lot of things that you can practice and put into your own life right away. But you're not just you, you're connected to a whole group around you, and it's whether it's your project leaders and colleagues, or whether it's your network colleagues. What implications does this knowledge about resilience or practice of resilience have for you in your leadership role? Consider this and make conscious decisions about how you will build your own resilience. Thank you for your participation today. I wish you all the best in your resilience journey going forward.